In Chapter 5 Season 2, a monster is going to be here. Currently on the map, there is a hole and this monster is going to appear. And the ice continues to melt. And this is going to lead us to our very first live event of this chapter. And to understand this, we have to go all the way back in Chapter 1. Please leave a like, subscribe, and use code SMJM for 5 months of good luck. In Chapter 1, Season 6, while Kevin the Cube was corrupting the Fortnite map, near the Flush factory, there was a storm heading towards the island. And as this storm got closer and closer to the island, we find out that this was not just a storm, this was an ice glacier heading towards the Fortnite island. And in Season 7, a huge portion of the map turned into this snowy area, and we find a huge castle on the mountain of Polar Peak. The Ice King was the king of that castle. We also find a mysterious prisoner inside of the dungeon of Polar Peak. And when Jonesy and bunch of Fortnite characters went inside the Polar Peak to talk to the Ice King, they see bunch of mysterious creatures frozen inside of the ice. And when Agent Jones questions the Ice King, he reveals all the secrets. He tells them about this ice moon just outside the Fortnite island. It is the same moon where the Seven have their base on. In fact, we were there during the collision event. The Ice King was on this moon because he was guarding a bunch of these monsters. He reveals that him and the prisoner used to go around different realities, hunting monsters and dangerous people. And once defeated, they used to bring these monsters back to the ice moon and prison them by freezing them. But he wasn't working alone, he was working with the Fire King. He reveals that the Fire King slowly started to get corrupted because having all of these monsters under their control gives them a lot of power, and the Fire King starts to get greedy. He wanted to use the power of all of these monsters to control the whole of reality. But the Ice King saw right through him. All this power was making the Fire King evil. But the Ice King refuses to use these monsters. And that is when the Fire King attacks the Ice King, but gets defeated, and now he's a prisoner. And that is the man in the dungeon, the Fire King. And since the moon in Fortnite was extremely cold, it would be impossible for these creatures to escape. But the Ice King was wrong. One day he finds himself in the midst of this huge space storm, and before you know it, a huge part of the ice moon, including the castle he used to live in, breaks and ends up landing on the Fortnite island. The Ice King ends up on the Fortnite map. The prisoner escapes, and to capture the prisoner, whose weakness is ice, the Ice King freezes the entire Fortnite island during the event of Chapter 1, Season 7. And to stop himself from freezing, the Fire King summons a giant volcano. And in Season 8, the Fire King deliberately erupts the volcano using his powers, and he destroys a bunch of locations like Tilted Towers, Retail Row, and then he finally reveals a secret that was hidden inside the mountains of Polar Peak. The Catus monster. And this was because he wanted a revenge for what the Ice King did to him. And during one of the updates in Season 9, the Catus monsters disappears. Now we all know what happens after that. A huge live event, Catus versus Mech. The monster gets defeated. And ever since then, the Seven has been guarding the ice moon, making sure that these monsters will not escape. But one group who has been trying their best to control this moon is the Lost Reality. If you think about it, the Lost Reality has been trying to take over the entire reality, but they have not been successful because of the Imagined Order and the Seven after that. And that is why they've created this huge plan to get rid of the Imagined Order and the Seven. And that is why they attacked the island in Chapter chapter 2. But we all know that they failed when the Seven flipped the island, and when they saw the Seven defeat the Imagined Order, they created a plan to destroy the Seven, which they eventually did in chapter 3. The Lost Reality sent one of their best agents, Harold, and Harold, taking advantage of the war between the Imagined Order and the Seven, when they were all distracted, slowly started to put in place this plan to get rid of the Seven. We saw this in Vibin season when there's this mysterious tree with its root spreading over in the entire Fortnite island. And when chapter 3 and season 4 was here, the Herald attack, and the very first thing she does is kidnap the members of the Seven. And since the disappearance of the Seven, the Ice Moon has been taken over by the Lost Reality. And ever since then, the Lost Reality has been preparing this attack. It is believed that Kato Thorn was also frozen on the Ice Moon and the Lost Reality released him. And that was their first attack on the island. If you remember, before the jungle season, when Dr. Sloan built the apparatus, we saw this circular object heading towards the island, and then the season after we saw Kato Thorn attacked the island. Fortunately, Kato Thorn was defeated, but this is just the beginning. The Lost Reality has been working on their next big attack, and I believe their plan to attack the island is already in motion. Because when we arrived on this chapter 5 map, what we noticed is the huge part of this Fortnite island was covered in snow. But when we landed, we realized that this wasn't just a normal ground covered in snow, this was actually a huge ice. That's right, just like in season 7 of chapter 1, this island was partly ice. And now that we're getting closer and closer to summer, this ice is starting to melt. Now what if this glacier was actually a piece of the Ice Moon? Maybe the Lost Reality placed it here, or maybe there was another huge storm that broke a huge part of the Ice Moon and it landed here. Now if that is true, then we are in big trouble, because we all know that there are hundreds and thousands of monsters trapped inside of the Ice Moon, all frozen. Now here is a picture that got leaked a few months ago, and this was made by the same artist who creates Fortnite locations. We didn't know what this was, but you can see right here this Fortnite character looking at this frozen land with monsters like the Kraken inside of the ice. What if this is actually a glimpse of the future? What if this is chapter 5 season 2? In recent update, we saw this image got leaked. Now you can see this huge lava monster trying to get out of the ground. I think this monster is going to be a build-up to a huge live event. When the season starts, we are going to see this hand coming out of the ground, and as the season progresses, this monster is slowly going to crawl out, and we are going to see more of his body. And I think eventually this monster will attack the Fortnite island. Now last time a monster attacked the island, we had the Seven who built the mech, but this time around I'm not sure exactly who's going to fight this huge monster, and judging by his arm, I think this monster is huge. Also, I'm not sure if this is a coincidence, but this monster's arm looks very similar to the prisoner's arm. So what if this is actually the prisoner, because we know that the prisoner is also known as the Fire King, and we know that the Fire King is almost as powerful as the Ice King, and the Fire King has the power to turn himself extremely big. And since the volcano event, we have not seen the Fire King. What if Ice King recaptured the prisoner, took him back to the Ice Moon, and kept him in a frozen state? And that part of the Ice Moon has ended up here on the chapter 5 map. And now that the ice is melting, this giant prisoner has escaped. And it looks like to fight this huge monster, we are going to see gods arriving on the Chapter 5 map next season. Because it has been confirmed next season is going to be a Greek mythology season. We are going to see Zeus, Medusa, and bunch of these characters show up on the map. Now, you might have noticed this monster is actually holding a mysterious chest. I will explain to you exactly what this chest is in the next video, so please leave a like, subscribe, and use code SMJM.